One, two, three, four.
It's Lewis Taylor here. I'm at the EC2A HQ in Bristol, and I'm going to show you how I made my new track, Move Your Waistline, which is coming out on EC2A. So the track I'm going to be breaking down is called Move Your Waistline, which is coming on EC2A. It's sort of like an organ, speed, garagey, housey tune. It's very inspired by like the whole 2000s era of like what the likes of Big Ange, Paul, Cyril, people like that were making, and like sort of a modern take on it. I'll quickly play a snippet of the track now, just so you can hear what we're going to be breaking down.
This is my baseline, my baseline. Move your waistline to my baseline. Heard it through the grapevine. My baseline. This is my baseline, my baseline. This is my baseline, my baseline.
Yeah, so the track mostly revolves around a sample, which is by Got Some and the Get Along Gang. I think I found the sample on Beatport. Made the track like probably start of 2024, so I'd be lying if I said I can fully remember how I found it, but I just remember hearing it and just thinking like, yeah, this is good. I usually find samples, I'd say, mostly on YouTube, but I feel like when you get them on Beatport, they're a lot cleaner because they've been posted for the purpose of sampling, whereas like on YouTube a lot of the time it's like rips from old vinyls and stuff, so you're always going to get a high quality sample from Beatport. But yeah, I'll just quickly play the sample.
This is my baseline, my baseline. Move your waistline to my baseline. Heard it through the grapevine. My baseline. This is my baseline, my baseline.
Obviously, yeah, very catchy. Like, as soon as I heard it, I knew like it was going to sound good. I feel like the track sort of built itself after I found the vocal. Like, there wasn't really too much to it. I feel like some of the tracks I might overcomplicate a little bit, but because the vocal's so catchy and it carries it so much that you can keep it quite simple and it still feels full. So yeah, so it's got the full a cappella for the track, and obviously it's got a couple of different sections. Start of the track, sort of the intro, just sort of tease the sample in a little bit, just to play the start of it.
This is my baseline.
Yeah, just sort of tease what's going to be coming up, and tease the main hook, and then in the breakdown, I've got a little verse.
Move and go from door to door, stepping onto the dance floor.
But then I really like how it sort of counts down into the drop, which sounds pretty good. This bit here.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, so it just sort of makes the build up a lot easier because it's counting down into the drop for you, so it's like something the listeners know what's going to be coming because they're literally being counted into it, which is probably quite rare on a dance tune. Processing of the sample, not too much to be honest. Just got some delay, not too much, just fruity standard plugins. Plugins wise, not too much on it to be honest. It's mostly FL Studio plugins. Always use FL Studio. I think I originally started on FL because it was a free trial, and I think it was the cheapest and the easiest to run. So I just thought it looked the most inviting, like the interface and stuff. I think I tried Ableton a little bit around the same time, but I just got on with FL a lot better, and I've just always stuck to FL Studio since then. Yeah, I feel like when people ask what DAW I'm on, and I say FL, they seem to be surprised, but it's actually, I don't know, it holds its weight against the other DAWs in my opinion. But yeah, so just got a little bit of delay on it, not really too much, nothing crazy. Tiny bit of reverb. It's looking at it's kind of pointless. Just cut out the lows, but there shouldn't really be any anyway, because from the original sample they've done most of this, then compress it just to sort of level it out a bit. But again, it probably wouldn't sound too different without all of that. Yeah, just got an endless smile, which is automating on the breakdown. It's sort of like kind of like a reverb. Just I'll play it so you can hear what it does.
My baseline. This is my baseline, my baseline.
Yeah, just got a bit of more delay, more reverb. Just gives it a bit of space so you can feel in the transition that it's not just cutting out and it's going like flat. and I play it in the context of the track.
My baseline. This is my baseline. My baseline.
Yeah. But versus if you remove it, you can probably hear the difference.
My baseline. This is my baseline. My baseline.
Yeah, it just sounds a lot more full. I think when it's a track like this, which has got literally only a couple of VSTs, like not too much to it. I think little details like that do make a lot of difference, because you can hear it a lot more than if it was like a really full track with loads of different synths and instruments playing. Yeah, so I think that's pretty much it for the vocal. I know that I started the track with the idea of the vocal in my head already, so I come into it and the first thing I did was load up the vocal. I think next thing I did was create the main riff of the organ, which is, yeah, it's pretty simple, nothing too complicated, just quite catchy. You'll notice in this a lot that I use Paul Cyril packs. Anyone who makes these sort of tunes will know all about Paul Cyril sample packs. But yeah, so I think I found out about them about the time that I made this. So I think both the Serum instances and the top loop for the drums is all Paul Cyril samples. So yeah, and it's good to see him getting like a lot of recognition at the minute, because he's just been doing it for years and he's just always made bangers, and then produced 6 samples as well. So yeah, just from his pack. Honestly, I couldn't tell you too much about how he's made it. This is why I buy a lot of my presets. I don't really make them too much. I feel like it just makes your work a lot easier if you can just, download presets instead of sitting making them. But yeah, then just got a bit of reverb on that. I think originally I had a little bit more and I turned it down. Processing wise for that, got a sidechain on, which just stops it clashing with the kick. Versus if I turn it off, you might not be able to hear it, but in a club or a sound system, you definitely be able to hear the crackle. Yeah, that's the difference. I mean, you might be able to hear, you might not, but just standard a sidechain your bass, really. Every time the kick hits, it's gonna slightly duck the volume of whatever it's gone. So in this instance, it's the bass, which is usually used on bass the most. Yeah, so just Kickstart makes it a lot easier because it sort of has these settings already there. Whereas you can do it other ways, like through a compressor or a limiter, but it's quite simple on Kickstart. So it's definitely a plugin that I'd recommend for it. But yeah, just essentially just ducks the volume, so the frequencies aren't clashing, the low end frequencies between the kick and the bass. And then yeah, besides that, I've just got an EQ on it. I mean, I think if I EQ'd now, I maybe wouldn't EQ it like that. But so yeah, so I've filtered out the high end because it's got like quite a loud sort of click. And then I've always wanted to know what this song was. It's basically like an M1 organ, but it's got like a metallic sort of attack on the top of it, which you'll hear if you listen for it. That's sort of like high click. If I move that, you'll hear it more. It just helps it punch through a lot more in the mix, especially when you're playing sort of the lower notes where it's a bass line. It gives you sort of like something to level out the high frequencies with. And then I've got a sausage fattener on it, just a little tiny bit. I use sausage fattener on pretty much everything. Just it's like a saturator, it just makes things a little bit louder. I know a lot of people use it on Ableton and they have issues where it sort of clips the master. But I don't know, something on the way FL's mixer is that I've just learned it, and I can get my songs on them pretty loud without it clipping too much. Yeah, so the next thing I probably did was do the drums, which quite simple. I'll play them. So I've got the top loop there, which I'm pretty sure will be from a Paul Cyril pack. If you look at that, it's essentially just another drum loop, what I was going to make, but sort of a bit lower in the mix. It helps get like, I think his the top loops in his sample packs are sampled from like actual old school speed garage tunes, where I think it's a lot more of like a live element. Whereas now I think on when you're making drum loops on Dork and sound sort of a little bit too like on the grid, quite robotic, where it's got like these have got more of a natural flow. And then on that, yeah, I've just filtered out the low end because obviously it's got its own kick, and obviously I want to just put my own spin on the drums. I don't want to just use the full drum loop. But yeah, for ages I try to avoid using top loops because in my head I thought it was cheating, but as soon as I started to use them, my production just got a whole lot better. So yeah, and then over the top of that, I just got a standard drum loop. Really got just a kick, a hat, and a clap, which I'll just play. Just the three main elements of a house beat, really. So, and they're just gonna punch through slightly more than the top loop. So it's got like the main driving force. Like if you don't have a clap, like it just isn't gonna sound right. And then if you don't have that hi hat, it's gonna just sound a lot less punchy. It's gonna have less weight to it. So I'll play the difference without the hi hat, and with it, like, a lot more pumping. And obviously, if I move the clap, you can hear the difference. And then obviously, you need your kick. Processing wise, for the hat and the clap, literally just another sausage fattener, just help it punch through the mix a bit more. And then same with the kick, again, just another sausage fattener. Yeah, there's a pattern I just use sausage fattener on everything. It just works, so I'm probably gonna keep doing it. I think so. After that, so you've got the main elements of the drop there. So you've got your vocal, your bass line, and then you've got your drums. So let's play the drop again.
This is my baseline, my baseline. Move your waistline to my baseline.
Yeah, that is literally the basis of the track. Like when you've got this point here, the track's pretty much sorted. It's just the hardest part of producing sometimes can be getting out of that stage of just being like a 4-bar or 8-bar loop and then putting it into a full track. Another thing for drums I'll mention is got crashes. Like every tune, just like using crashes. Feel like it helps with the transition a lot. So I'll play the transition from the intro. I'll play it without the crashes, and you'll be able to hear the difference of how much more smoothly it transitions in.
This is my baseline. This is my baseline.
And then I'll put the crashes in, and then you should be able to hear the difference between the two.
This is my baseline.
Or it tells you something's coming.
This is my baseline.
Yeah, I'll use that in like crashes in every single track. But it basically helps you to hear that a section's going to change, so something new's coming or like something's going to come out. Just really helps when you're structuring a tune as well, so you can sort of see where things start. But obviously you don't want to overuse them. Like if you put a crash every like 4 beats, it's going to sound, well, I mean for this sort of tune it might not sound right, but some tunes I suppose you could do it. So then yeah, so I probably had this loop here, and then the next thing I'll have done is I'll have made the build up. So I've added a snare roll, which is again it's pretty standard on every tune that I'll do. Just helps with the transition. So just on that, just automating the volume to go from low to high. Just builds it up sort of, and then also got a riser, which is just essentially just white noise. Like again, you can make your own ones of these, but a lot of packs have them in. So again, that just sort of builds it up. You can hear it with the snare roll. I think it's actually from a drum and bass pack because I started out making drum and bass when I first started. But I've always used the same riser in most of my tunes, and it's one of the things I don't think many people would notice if you used a different one. So yeah, so I've used the different section of the vocal again. I've got the organ in, I'll have started like this and then made this.
Stepping onto the dance floor. Would you like to dance in your? I think you should say yes, por favor. Not your average girl next door. Let's go make this hardcore. Everything you hoped for. 1, 2, 3, 4.
And then again, that's just the build up and the drop. That's pretty much it sorted. I'd say the track's sort of like it's a mix between like organ house and speed garage. Just like similar to a lot of people were making in the 2000s, like quite a northern sound to it, like Big Ange sort of people like that. Yeah, it's kind of say it's like organ house, but it's quite faster, so you could say that it's got like that speed garagey element to it. Another thing when doing the build up, I've added just a high pitched string which just creates a bit of atmosphere. Again, I use this in pretty much every track. This one's on Xenology and on the Rolling Cloud, which is very good. If it's got a lot of stuff, I think it's like £20 a month. Just got a lot of plugins you can use for quite reasonably priced. And yeah, just sort of adds a bit of atmosphere. I've got no processing on it. Obviously needs to be in key with the track.
This hardcore, everything you hope.
And then if you take it out, it just sounds a lot more empty, a bit drier. So you got the build up and the drop there really. I think at the start of the build up, I don't play the full bass line, just the start of it.
This is my baseline, my baseline. Move your waistline.
I just don't want to give it all away straight away, especially when there's not too much going on. And then second half you'll feel it coming more. I think that the change paired with the build up from the snare rolls and the risers just builds it up a lot better. So then when you've got, that's the first drop there really, and then also automating the side chaining I was talking about before, so that it comes off in the breakdown. Obviously it's still hitting there because you've got a kick on the first beat, but taking that side chain off, because obviously there's no kick playing, so you don't want to just, if you have it side chain the kick with nothing there, especially on kickstart, which is what I use, you're just going to hear it sort of, well, I'll turn the automation off and you'll be able to hear the difference. It's playing basically as if there's a kick there. So yeah, so it's not going to play the attack of the note. You'll be able to hear it here.
This is my baseline, my baseline. Move your waistline. This is my baseline, my baseline. Move your waistline.
Yeah, it's just subtle, but I think it's sort of thing people might notice. And then after that, I start with the second half, which is another organ. Again, I think it's from the same pack as the other one. Yeah, just again, just a standard organ really. Just with this one, I'm not going to be playing it as a bass line. It's sort of going to be as like it's going to occupy the mids and the highs a lot more. Just want to have something so it switches up halfway through, so it doesn't get too repetitive for the listener. So I'll just play this. And yeah, just the same pattern. Nothing too much on it, just some reverb. Inside serum, and then on the here just tuck the low ends. Obviously you don't want it to clash with the bass line if they're going to be playing at the same time. Yeah, just follows the same pattern, just gives it something sort of to switch up. And then so I've got that playing, and then for the second drop you just sort of want to build things back up again, but you want it to hit slightly harder than the first one. So just come in with the clap first, just sort of tease that with the vocal, and then we're going to bring the organ back in from the first drop. and then it's all the same build up as before. Got the crashes. I think the first drop we didn't have as much, no crashes or anything. And then obviously the vocal counts down again. And let them play at the same time. Just hits slightly harder than the first drop. Gives it a lot of variation. I think it's important as well. I think a lot of the time when people do a build up, like, well, me myself anyway, would sort of make the build up straight into the first beat. But I think especially in this track, because of the way the vocal is, it's important to have that silence before the drop, so it sort of just cuts out.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yes, like the way it counts it down, like it's that silence before the drop is very important. Where I think obviously sometimes you do just want to build it straight into the first beat, but just sort of confuses the listener a little bit when it just hears like that cut off before the drop. So when it comes back in, it's going to hit a lot harder. And then that is pretty much it for everything on the track. Like, it's a pretty simple track. It just shows like you don't need too much all the time. Like, I know a lot of the time I'll be guilty of, so I make a track and I think like it's got to have however many plugins, loads of different instruments, loads of different things playing. But this is just one main pattern. It's got two organs playing the same pattern with a string and a vocal. And I think a lot of the time nowadays people tend to overcomplicate things, when I think it's because a lot easier on when you're working, say, fully on a computer. You've got more like options of like things you can add, effects you can put on, like talking before about sidechain and stuff. Like me myself, when I first started, I used to get wrapped up a lot in like compression and stuff like that. And like the most important thing is just like the melodies you're playing, like the bass lines you're writing. Like I think when you look back at sort of when people would do it all analog, when it wasn't all digital, like you're sort of playing things in and you can't really mess around with it too much. Once you've played it, then that's it. Obviously you can like run things through reverb and stuff the same way you can now, but I think yeah, it's just easy to overcomplicate it when you look at like a lot of classic tunes that are bangers. If you really break it down and listen to it, it's a lot of it's just quite simple production with they're just writing good melodies, good bass lines, and yeah, I feel like that's sort of what I try to do with this tune. I didn't try and overcomplicate it too much.